Today, we're jumping into a fairy tale that completely flips the script on the whole damsel in distress thing. Seriously, this is a story packed with dark magic, a prince who's in deep trouble, and a hero you are probably not expecting.
So, the setup, it feels pretty classic, right? You've got four seriously evil villains, one prince who's totally helpless, and the odds seem impossible. The real question is, how on earth can a single queen stand up against that kind of power?
All right, first things first, let's meet the villains. In this one kingdom, there were these four sorceresses who had this whole reign of terror going on. And their targets? They specifically went after the most handsome young men in the land. But what's really bone-chilling is their method. This wasn't just some quick ambush. Oh no. They had a pact and a gruesome, drawn-out process. Their endgame was to slowly, deliberately weaken their victims before finally eating them. And this five-step plan just shows how cruel they were. First, they'd trap a guy. Then, they'd kind of play with their food, entertaining themselves. But, and this is the terrifying part, when they'd leave for the day, they used magic to turn him into a wax figure. Why? So he couldn't escape. They'd starve him until he was just a shell of his former self. And only then would they make him their final meal. It's just an absolutely horrifying system. So, how in the world does our prince get caught in this nightmare? Well, it all starts on what was supposed to be the happiest day of his life, his wedding day. The whole situation is pretty unique. You've got one king with 7 sons, and he finds another king who just so happens to have 7 daughters. Perfect match, right? So they arrange this massive wedding for all 14 of them. Our guy, the youngest of the 7 princes, travels with his whole family for this huge celebration. So the wedding festivities go on for days, and the princes decide to go exploring. Well, the youngest prince gets separated from his brothers. He's exhausted, and he ends up stumbling upon this gorgeous but weirdly empty mansion deep in the forest. He thinks, perfect, a place to rest. Big mistake. He finds this super comfortable bed, and since he's completely wiped out, he just crashes. And that's his fatal error. The sorceresses come home to find their next victim literally delivered to their doorstep. They tie him up with a magical thread, trapping him in this enchanted sleep. Meanwhile, back at the palace, everyone realizes the prince is missing. To avoid a huge scandal and make sure the wedding goes through, they come up with this really clever solution. The youngest princess is symbolically married to his dagger, his katara, in his place. And this is a huge deal because it means that while the prince is a prisoner, he is now officially married, and his bride is now a queen. And this, right here, is where our story's true hero steps into the spotlight. The focus completely shifts to the youngest princess, now a queen without her king. Days go by, then weeks, and nobody has a good answer about where her husband is. Everyone else seems ready to just move on, but she feels it in her gut. Something is terribly, terribly wrong. She realizes if she wants to find him, she's going to have to do it herself. Her transformation is just incredible. She makes up a clever excuse, telling everyone she's going to visit her parents. But as soon as she's away from the palace, she sends her guards home, puts on men's clothing, and sets off totally alone. She's not just a queen anymore, she's an investigator on a mission. Her instincts pay off. They lead her to that same forest, to that same mansion. And inside, she finds her husband, exactly as the sorceresses left him, unconscious, tied up with that magic thread, and dangerously thin. She doesn't hesitate for a second. She cuts the thread, breaking the spell, and he wakes up. Now, this next part is a stroke of pure genius. Instead of telling him, "I'm your wife, I'm here to save you," she keeps her disguise. She tells him she's the son of a merchant, a new friend who's going to help him escape. Why? Because she knows this is way more complicated than a simple rescue. To really win this thing, she needs to stay in control and come up with a rock-solid plan. Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of the story. This isn't a tale about fighting with swords and shields. No, this is all about incredible intelligence and strategy. The queen's plan is complex, it's patient, and honestly, it's absolutely brilliant. So the sorceresses start to notice that the prince is looking healthier. That's because the queen has been sneaking him food, and they get suspicious. So they move him to a whole new fortress, one that's across 7 seas, but she is not giving up. The queen finds a sage in the forest who gives her a magical paste that lets her literally walk on water. She can cross the distance in just a few hours. One day, while she's resting near their new hideout, she overhears 2 magical birds talking to each other. One of them, a chakwa bird, reveals that its droppings have miraculous healing powers. And this one little piece of information she just happened to overhear, it becomes the absolute key to her entire plan. Okay, get ready for this, because her plan is just masterful. Still disguised as a physician, she finds out that each of the 4 sorceresses has a father who's suffering from some horrible illness. So she goes to the first sorceress's father, who has leprosy, and cures him using the bird droppings. As a reward, the dad offers his daughter in marriage. The queen accepts. And as a wedding gift, she gets a flying bed. She then does this 3 more times, curing blindness, deafness, and boldness, marrying each sorceress and getting a new magical item every single time. And here's where you see the real genius of it all. By marrying all 4 sorceresses, she's using their own culture against them. See, a newly married woman isn't allowed to leave her home until her husband comes to get her. By becoming their husband, she basically puts all 4 of them under house arrest. They can't go anywhere, which means they can't visit the prince ever again.
So now the prince is safe and the sorceresses are completely neutralized. The queen just has to set up the final act. It's time to put an end to their evil for good. She goes to her 4 wives and tells them she's going back to her home country. Of course, they all beg to go with her. She says yes, but with one condition. Her friend, the prince, will be riding on the bed, so they will have to hang on to the legs of the flying bed. And they're so eager to go, they agree. She gets the flying bed up in the air and pilots it far away from the island, out high over the open ocean. The prince is safe next to her, and the 4 evil sorceresses are hanging on for dear life underneath them, completely and totally at her mercy. The trap is set. Then she gives the signal. The prince pulls out his dagger. Yep, the very same Qatar she married, and he cuts off the hands of all 4 sorceresses. One by one, they fall into the ocean below, and their evil is finally gone from the world forever. So, what do we take away from all this? I mean, this story is just this incredible reminder that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a sword or a magic spell, but a sharp, patient mind. The queen didn't just rescue her husband, she completely dismantled an entire system of evil just by understanding how it worked and turning its own rules against it. It really shows that wit and courage can conquer anything, and it leaves you wondering, what other classic stories would look totally different if we paid more attention to the quiet, clever hero in the background?